Hello, this is Spyderrock, and a question that I get asked quite a lot is how do I make add-ons? How do I get started making add-ons? Where do I start? What do you do? How do you make add-ons? And well, that's what I plan to answer today. This is going to be a pretty beginner's guide for making add-ons. For example, this add-on that I am working on updating, Crazy Weapons. In this video, you will learn the softwares and tools that you'll need for making add-ons, the different types of packs that add-ons are made of, the different types of folders and files that are needed to make an add-on run, the different types of files that correspond to adding different types of new things into the game, how to make a new pack with a new item, how to export it and add it to your Minecraft game, and how you can learn more about making add-ons. To get started, you're probably going to want to use this software. This software is called Bridge, more specifically Bridge V2. This is, I'd say, the best software for making add-ons. It's better than any like mobile software or anything like that, any mobile apps. And while yes, you can make add-ons completely fine with just using Visual Studio Code or anything like that. You can even just use Notepad. I really recommend Bridge if you're starting out making add-ons. I think it really streamlines the process, and it's what I'm going to be using in today's video. So there will be a link in the description. You can download Bridge for free. To get started, add-ons have two main packs, two main folders: the behavior pack, which is what I'm in right now, and the resource pack, which if I click here, we can see my resource pack. The resource pack is responsible for handling things like visuals, sounds, like the words that you see, you know, the names of things. That's all in the resource pack. You could think texture pack. The behavior pack is responsible for the logic. The best way that I could put it, this is the code. This is what makes things do things. This is the if this then that. This is the behaviors of the entities, that kind of thing. That's all in the behavior pack. And both these packs you can see in the little add-on section when you're adding things. You've got your resource packs, texture packs and things, and behavior packs, your actual, you know, behaviors, your logic. Now to get started, one of the, I think the most essential thing for any pack to have is the manifest. Now, don't worry about having to make any manifests just yet. We'll get into making a new pack later. Right now, I just want you to see some of the things that you'll need in the future. All right, so as for the manifest, the format version is the type of syntax you're using with the manifest. Right now, 2 is kind of the recommended one as it's the most stable recent version. Metadata isn't necessarily required. You can have this here if you want to have information about the pack inside the pack. This isn't going to really affect your game. This is the kind of thing that you could theoretically remove and it wouldn't really affect anything. If you make a pack with Bridge, it'll say that it was made with Bridge and then it was made by whoever your author is. For me, it's Spyderrock. But the real important things here are the header and the modules. Now the header is where your name and description are going to be. That's going to be the little line of text you see when you're going to import the pack into your Minecraft world. So for example, since I'm using my Bossborn add-on as just like an example to show you all these things, I have the name set as Bossborn and the description set as by Spyderrock. You could have it set to whatever you want. The min engine version is the minimum version of Minecraft that will be able to read your pack. A lot of times I recommend having this on one of the more recent versions of Minecraft. This is on 1.17.0, but most of my add-ons when I'm updating them, and I will probably add that to this as well, have been on 1.19.50. I generally would recommend that, but just kind of, if you're using Bridge, this should auto-generate to whatever is kind of the most stable at the time. And then if you need more features from newer versions of Minecraft, you could probably update this. For example, the new execute syntax, you have to have this as 1.19.50. If you have it as an older min engine version, then I think you can use the old one still if it's inside the add-on. The UUID is a very important thing, at least in my opinion. This is essentially, and there is a website where you can generate these, but this is essentially the ID for your pack. You can't import a new pack with the same UUID unless this next box here, the version, is set to something newer. So right now this is 1.0.0, but if I wanted to set it to 1.0.1, you could import that and it would overwrite this version of the file. For now, it doesn't really matter if you're just making one add-on. This is the kind of thing that you can just leave at, you know, 1.0.0, but if you ever update an add-on that you make, I recommend setting this to, you know, 1.2 or 1.0.2 or 2.0 or something like that. But this is the version of your add-on, not the version of Minecraft. In the module section, the type defines whether it's like a resource or behavior pack. Here you can see that The type is set to data, so that means that this is a behavior pack. If you were in a resource pack, it would be something different. This also has a UUID. I do recommend having this as a different UUID than this UUID, so just have these be two different UUIDs, I think. And then the version you can pretty much leave as the same thing. As for the resource pack manifest, it's pretty much just the same thing. The only real difference is that the type is going to be resources instead of data. And you're going to want to have two completely different UUIDs here. You don't really ever want to reuse the UUID. No, you don't want to reuse it from another add-on especially, but you don't want to reuse it in your own add-on either. So just make sure all of these are different things. Now for some of these subfolders. These are going to be folders inside your main resource or behavior pack folder that hold the files and the meat of your add-on. So to give some examples for some subfolders for your behavior pack, you've got the items subfolder, and this holds all your items, and you can put subfolders inside of subfolders. I usually don't, but with some add-ons, I like to do that. I think a lot of people do like to do that. It's very good for organizing. I recommend having better organizational skills than me. I don't really have great organizational skills when it comes to this kind of stuff, but you know, it's worth organizing. But you can see all of the files for my items are stored in this folder, or all of the recipes are stored in here. All of the entities are in the one labeled entities. Same thing goes for the resource pack. You have textures, and then inside of textures, I have a subfolder in the subfolder. For example, blocks, and this is the PNG texture files for all my blocks. For my entity textures for my items. So you can see if I open up my life fruit block, I can actually see this is the file of the block in my blocks, in my textures, in my resource pack. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over some of the most important types of, I don't know how to say this other than just like things, which sounds kind of bad, but the type of things that you need for an add-on to do the things that you want it to do. The most basic thing, of course, is items. Those are going to be in your items folder. These are going to hold, well, your items. I will get into the different things, description, component, and events, etc. of an item in just a little bit when we make our own item, but just know that these item things are literally the files that define the items that you have in the game. Think a diamond sword. Entities are your Minecraft mobs. These are going to be, you know, your cows, your pigs, your zombies, those kinds of things. Those are also going to be your things like projectiles. Like if you shoot an arrow, that arrow is an entity. So I have my diamond golem here defined as an entity in my entities folder, but I also have my infinimite, which is like my throwable dynamite thing from this add-on, and that is also in this folder. Entities don't just have to be things that you can actually see. There's a lot of things you could do with invisible entities to make other things work. I'm not going to get into that in this video. That's a little bit more complicated than I think anybody here is ready for. Another important one is blocks. These are, well, Minecraft blocks. This is where you put your blocks. For example, my boss table, which is my crafting table. Some other really important things that aren't, you know, as obvious are things like recipes. This is your crafting recipes. So I'll make a crafting recipe in a bit, like I said, when we make our own little add-on. Just know that those are also in here. They're listed as recipes, and you can just put them into here. Spawn rules are the things that define where your mobs spawn. So I only have 2 mobs in this add-on that actually spawn naturally in the world. One of them is the shaman totem. And so as you can see, the shaman totem is in the spawn rules, and I have things in here defining things like population control, how common is it, how many are gonna spawn in, what biomes can it spawn in, is it gonna spawn on the surface, things like that. Loot tables are gonna define things like what is in a chest or what a mob drops when they die, those kinds of things. You can also just load in loot tables, but you can see these have different pools of items with roles and entries. A very important thing if you are making an add-on with mobs or structures, I think. Then finally, speaking of structures, we do have the structures. So there are structures, which are these MC structure files, which you can export from Minecraft. Now, I won't be getting into structures in this video, but let me know down below in the comments section if you want me to do a tutorial on how to make a structure add-on. But for structures, you'll also need things called features and feature rules. But if I go ahead and hop over to my structure add-on, you can see we have features and feature rules. Now, features are basically the things that define the structure. So the structure itself is just a structure. It's just a collection of blocks. But the feature makes you actually be able to use that structure in an add-on. Instead of something loading in a structure to your world, it loads in a feature, and that feature loads in the structure, if that makes any sense. So you can have things like if it's facing a direction, is it going to be on the ground? And then of course, what's the structure? Those kinds of things are going to be in your feature. The feature rules define where it actually spawns. So it places a feature, like I said, not a structure, and then there are conditions you could do. For example, what biomes is it going to spawn in? What pass is it going to go through? And then you can actually have the distribution. So you can see it's going to go anywhere on the X coordinate from 0 to 16, the Y coordinate from 0 to 16, sorry, the Z coordinate, and then wherever your Y coordinate is. So for me, this is 1 block below the surface. So I want this to go 1 block down into the ground. Those are the kind of things that are going to be in your feature rules. And then of course, scatter chance, numerator, denominator, you can do math. 1 in every 3,200 chunks is where one of these will spawn. All right, so now that you have a general idea of the kind of things that go into making an add-on, let's make a new pack. So inside of Bridge, you're gonna wanna go up to this little bar at the top. You're gonna wanna go to Project, New Project, then you see Behavior Pack and Resource Pack. If you want to add skins or world templates, you can. That's a nice feature of Bridge, but for this video, I'm just going to be doing the Behavior Pack and the Resource Pack. Don't set these as dependencies just yet. These basically have, when you put one pack on the world, it puts the other one on, but you can't have one without the other. I like to have this off while I'm testing add-ons, just in case I need to take one pack off and put in a different version I had or something that I had backed up. It just makes it a little bit easier. Now, in your experimental gameplay section, I recommend turning everything on except for Education Edition. I don't really recommend Education Edition, but make sure that all of these are active. So Holiday Creator features, custom biomes, upcoming creator features, beta APIs, milling features. I always like to have everything experimental on just so I can have the most options as to what I can do with my add-on. If I have an idea, but I didn't think I was going to do that originally, and then I have that idea, I can implement it even if, you know, I wasn't originally intending on doing that. As for individual files, as of right now, you can leave these all on. I recommend turning off player.json if you're not planning on using it. That's essentially what allows you to alter the player's abilities, because the player is technically an entity the way you'd have a cow or a pig, so you can affect things like how much damage the player does, how fast they move. You can only have one of these per world though, so if you have multiple add-ons that use it, one of them is going to have to overwrite the rest. So that's why I generally don't use it, and I'm actually going to turn it off for this pack because we don't need it right now. If you want to leave it on, that's completely fine though. Then project icon, this is going to be the image that your add-on has. So if I go to my downloads, you can see some of these random images that I have. I'm going to set it as this is going to be my pack icon. You can just leave it blank if you want for now as well. It's going to auto generate the letter of the name of the project. Then you can do project name. So for this, I'm just going to call this example project for now. Project description, how to make add-ons. This will actually auto fill in the description or the name and description of the pack directly into your manifest if you have this on. So I recommend having this on. I don't recommend doing this whole thing that they do where they have the lang file. I don't know. They do a thing. Bridge does a thing. They make it complicated. This is one of the most important things in any add-on. So please pay attention to this. This is your prefix. This is the thing you're going to do to define that whatever you made is from your add-on. For every add-on I make, I always have the prefix be SP. So whenever I make a new thing, a new item, instead of it being like Minecraft:dirt, it's going to be SP:, and then whatever the name of the item is. I'm going to use SP for mine. If you want to use SP while you're following this tutorial, that's fine. But if you're going to make your own add-ons, I recommend putting something here. It can be kind of as long or short as you want. By default, it's Bridge, and that's fine usually. I like having my own thing, so I use SP because it's easy to type. But if your name was like Bob, you could do like Bob, or you could do like Bob add-on, or I don't know, whatever you want. I'm just going to leave mine as SP for now. Project author, put this as you. For me, it's going to be Spyderrock. Target version, I recommend doing the most recent version of the game, or one of the most recent versions. Right now, I'm going to stick with 0.19.5. You can leave off use with Bedrock dedicated servers for now. I don't plan on using this on a Bedrock dedicated server. If you are, you might want to turn that on. I'm going to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what this does, so if you know, please comment down below. But just leave it off for now for the sake of the tutorial. Then when you're ready, click create, and it will make you a new add-on. This is why I love Bridge, because it will pretty much auto-generate all of the essential files for an add-on. It also kind of gives you a bit of bloat of these extra files for things like scripting and making custom commands that I'm not personally going to use in my add-on, but I like to leave them there in case, like I said, if I ever change my mind and I want to use them. Bridge likes to do its thing where it loads auto completions and indexes packs, and if you want to, you can just leave this be. If you're patient, you can just leave it be. What I like to do though, a lot of the time is, and maybe this is bad practice, so I don't necessarily recommend doing it, but just close it, hit OK, and then reopen Bridge. And then you should be all good. It may take a second to compile. And there we go. You can see example project is here. You can save it. It seems to be working. So we have all of our main folders. These are the things that auto generates with right here. And if I actually go ahead into Minecraft, you can see that, let me see. If I go into here and I go to my resource and behavior packs, it actually adds this example project. And the reason it's there without me even having to reopen the game is because it's actually in my development behavior and resource packs folders. Normally, if you import a pack, it's going to go into your resource and behavior packs. And if you make any changes to it, you're going to have to reopen your game for them to work. But if they're in your development packs, and as you can see, all of my add-ons are in here and Bridge will automatically put them into there, then they will just kind of automatically be saved to your game. Now, while technically the packs that I'm working on are in these development pack folders, you can see if I find example project, it's going to be here. If I actually change anything in here, it's not going to change inside of Bridge. And that's because Bridge doesn't really operate out of the example pack. Doesn't really operate out of the com.mojang folder. It actually operates out of its own projects folder. Now I have this pinned. I recommend pinning it once you figure out where it is. If you need to figure out where it is, you can go inside a Bridge and hit these little 3 dots, and then you can hit open project folder and it will actually open the folder of your Bridge projects, and you can select example project. Now, if you're actually going to be editing the add-on at all outside of Bridge, edit it here in this project folder. They do this because they can make backups of your add-on if anything goes wrong. That way you don't just have one place that it's being stored, so you won't lose everything if you have to reinstall your game or something like that, or if you need to transfer to a different version of Bridge. Because right now I'm on the desktop app version. There's also a web app version and an original desktop app version called V1. I think the desktop app version of V2 is the best that there is right now. All right, so now that we're in the new pack, we can see that the manifest is all good. I've got my authors, Spyderrock, generated with Bridge, and my metadata, format version 2, the name of my add-on, the description. I've got my UUIDs, and yes, Bridge does automatically generate UUIDs, so you don't have to worry about that. You can also ignore these dependencies things for now. This is if you're doing game test things with JavaScript. We're not doing that in today's video. And you can see my pack icon was set to this goofy image that I chose from my downloads folder. All right, so let's make a new item. There are a lot of things that go into making an item or an entity, but I'm gonna use the basic easy way as of right now to show you all how to do this inside of Bridge. You hit these 3 dots, you hit new file, and then Bridge gives you a ton of things that you can make by default. There's a bunch of entities that you can make, blocks, and items. I'm gonna start with a sword though. I'm not gonna put an image here just yet. We can edit that later if we want to. I'm gonna set the identifier, and this is gonna be the name of the file essentially, and the name of the item in the game, but not like the name when you hold it, like the name if you were to /give it to yourself with commands. So I'm gonna call this example_sword. Make sure you don't have any spaces here or anything. Just leave it as, generally leave it as lowercase letters and underscores only. Numbers if you want, that's fine. But then in display name, this is where I'm gonna call it example sword with capital E, capital S, a space in between, and then I'm gonna hit create. And this pretty much makes everything we need. Of course, I'm gonna go over all the things. So, as for an item, there's a few different things in here. You're gonna first want the format version to be 1.16.100 or higher, unless you're working on something for the marketplace where you need the format version to be lower so you can actually use the item without needing experimental features. This is just for making a normal add-on though. I recommend having an item be at least 1.16.100. A lot of times I don't change this until something stops working, so. Next up we have the item little drop-down menu. You can see in Bridge, this is called the tree editor. You can also do raw text if you want. I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. So hit project, hit settings, and then go to editor, and then you can change this to raw text. Now it won't actually change it immediately. You have to close it and then find your item in here in the item subfolder. and now you can see the raw text. So this is actually what the add-on looks like. So this is actually what the item file looks like, and this is just with only a few things. Now I like the tree editor personally. That's where I add a lot of stuff, and then if I need to tweak things, a lot of times I tweak them in the raw text. I do wish there was like a hotkey to switch between the two. I think that would be really handy. I really wish they did that. But for now, I'm going to go back to the tree editor because it's nice. You can essentially click on these little arrows to drop down the different things inside of things. So everything inside of these two brackets is going to be in this little drop down. So you can see bracket, dot, 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 bracket. Then these are the dot, dot, dot. And same thing goes for this, and so on and so forth. Now, the item, I don't really know what to call this. The little drop down, I'll call it for now, contains a few things. You're going to have your description, your components, and your events. These are kind of the three main things. Once you get into entities and some other things, you're going to have things like component groups. But for most types of files, they're going to follow something similar to this. Now, the description is where your identifier is. So that's SP example sword. If I wanted to change this, which I don't recommend doing right now since Bridge already generated things, but if I did want to change it, you could change it here in this little edit thing here. So I could call it example sword 2, but I don't want to do that. Also, just so you know, Control S is save. I hope that's obvious for people that use computer software, but if you want to know how I'm saving and stuff, Control S. Then since this is an item, there's the category component, and this is kind of going to be like your creative category, but it's not all necessarily going to be your creative category because that's another component. We'll get into that in a sec, but for now, just leave this as default category equipment. If you do want to change it, if you want to make it in your construction category, you would change that. Now for your components, these are the things that actually define what the item or entity or block does. So as for the item, this actually, one of the things I like so much about Bridge, I want to make a sword, I just do this and it adds all of these important stuff that I need. Of course, I can add in my own components and whatnot, but you can see it has things like can destroy in creative false. And that essentially means that when you punch blocks in creative, just like a normal vanilla Minecraft sword, it's not going to break the blocks. Creative category is your actual creative category. I recommend having, since sword is like a inside of the equipment category, you have this one as item group.name.sword, then you leave this as equipment. Durability is how much damage it can take, so I'm just going to leave this at 251. Damage is 6, that's how much attack damage it does. Digger is the destroy speeds. So for a sword, that's not really that relevant, but you have things like web and bamboo that it can break pretty quickly. So speed of 15 and a speed of 60, and then you can have events happen unused, but we'll get to events in just a second. I also recommend having weapon on. Let's make sure you have both of those on. Repairable allows you to repair it in crafting with things like, for example, an iron ingot in this case, or with itself, the example sword. Max stack size is how big the stack is. Since it's a sword, you can only stack it to 1. I hope you're getting an idea of what these mean. There are a ton of components, and there will be a link in the description to both the wiki where you can learn more and the Bedrock dev website where you can see a lot of the different components. If there's a component that you want to see what it does though, like, oh, I wonder what icon does, then you can right click and you can hit view documentation, and it actually opens it up in a browser window for you. And this is the Bedrock dev website, not the wiki. But this one kind of shows you, oh, okay, so, you know, item components. Well, we have armor, block placer, chargeable, etc, etc, etc. It shows you all the different components and explains what they do. I really wish this was kind of around when I was learning add-ons, and it wasn't, sadly, but this is a great resource to try to figure out what different things do. Now, as for events, these are things that will happen when things trigger them. This is the if this, then that. So right now there's two, there's damage and on tool used. So these damage the sword 2 different item amounts, I guess. I think on tool used is if you break a block with the sword, and damaged is if you hit something. But you can see here, this actually does durability damage to the sword. You can also do things like run commands. So if I put slash effect, and then you can click on this slash effect FPE strength 5. So this will give me strength 6 for 5 seconds. And I can just do that. So this should theoretically run the command effect at P strength 5 when I attack something. Because if I go to on hurt entity, you can see event damage target self. So those are the general ideas of the type of thing that you're going to see in an add-on file. I do plan on making tutorials in the future where I actually go in depth on how to make different kinds of things, you know, blocks, mobs, things like that. All right, as for the resource pack, there are a few important things. So inside your textures folder, this will auto-generate this whole thing, part of Bridge. It's so nice. But you can see my textures in here, my example sword. It just used the iron sword texture. If you want to set your own texture, of course, you can go to your project folder, example project, RP, textures, items, and then your example sword. I'm actually going to alter this because I want to show you kind of the idea. Also, just for the record, I'm recording this after having imported it to my world and like showing it off because I may or may not have forgot about the resource pack. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this red just like that. So just to show you that it's different. But you can see that that's different here. But if I close this and open this, it's still gonna be, actually, if I open the file, it looks right. But if I don't do anything and I just save this and open it in the game, it's not gonna look right. I actually have to hit options and refresh project. So just make sure you refresh project if you alter anything outside of the project. As for what sets this texture to that item, you actually have the item texture file. So you can see here in the item texture file, you can leave everything as is, but you're gonna have the resource pack name as your resource pack, texture name atlas.items, and then in your texture data, you can have some kind of thing relating to your item. Of course, if I go into let me go ahead and save this and head over to my actual item, you can see if I go into the icon component, which this is for your texture, it's sp_example_sword. And then over here we have sp_example_sword. And then textures, items, example sword. And that's the directory of the file for the example sword. Same thing goes for blocks, but we're not really working on blocks in this video just yet. Sounds, things like that. One important thing though is texts. You have ian_us.lang. And this is where you're going to put the names of things. So item.sp.example_sword equals example sword. If you're going to make a mob or anything like that, you're going to want to put it into your lang file. One important thing I forgot to mention earlier, I'm going to go ahead and make a new one. It's in the simple files section. It's called a function. These essentially allow you to run multiple commands at once. So I'm just going to call this test. So this, you don't want to put a slash here. I mean, I think you can, but I don't like doing it. So I just do clear to clear my inventory, time set day to set it to daytime, and summon pig to summon a pig. I can't type, but you can see that these essentially allow you to have multiple commands run at once. So we can test that out in a bit. Tick also allows you to have functions run every single game tick, which is 20 times every second. So if I wanted, I could put the test into here, so it does this 20 times every second, which would be pretty problematic. So I'm not going to do that right now. Before we export though, let's go ahead and test this out in game. So let's make a new world. I'm just going to leave this as creative. Go ahead down to cheats, turn on cheats, turn on keep inventory just because I want to. Go to my experiments, turn on all of my experiments. I always like to have everything on in my experiment section. Then I can go to behavior packs and turn on my pack if I find it. I have to kind of scroll here through a little bit. There we go, example project, add it, go to my resource packs and do the same thing. I'm assuming you probably know how to do this. If you're interested in add-ons, you probably know how to activate add-ons, but you can kind of see what I'm doing if you don't. All right, so as we can see, we can go into the creative inventory, and because it's all set up, now I have this example sword here with 6 attack damage. And if I attack something, theoretically, it should give me strength. So let me summon like a cow. Actually, I can summon a pig with /function. And then you can see, oh, there we go. My function shows up test, and it summons a pig and clears my inventory and sets the time, the day. And I just realized it cleared my inventory. So, but I can attack the pig, and it gave me strength 6 for 5 seconds. So hopefully you have a good idea of how to at least make, I mean, you're not going to know how to make anything crazy just yet, but the premise of what goes into making an add-on. Now I want to show you how to export your add-on because that's kind of important. If you want to export it, you go into Bridge, you hit options, the little dots, and you hit export as MC add-on. And then you can click this little export successful arrow here, and it exports it as an MC add-on. You can import this, send it to your friends, do whatever you want with this. This combines both the resource and behavior packs. This probably isn't going to import properly because I already have it in here. I didn't mean to double click it. Yeah. So since the UUID is the same as the pack already in, it's going to do duplicate pack detected, and it's not going to work. I like how easy Bridge makes exporting though. I don't have to like zip anything. It's just a couple clicks and it's done. Now, as for other softwares you might want to use, Bridge actually has kind of the main ones implemented. You can click on tools and you can click on Blockbench. If you want to make mobs, entities, that kind of thing, use Blockbench. You can make a Bedrock entity. I won't get into how to use Blockbench in this video. It's already pretty long, but Blockbench is a really great software for modeling, texturing, and animating Minecraft models. So Blockbench, great tool. You also have Snowstorm, which is for making particles in Minecraft. So both of these are really good tools, and they're actually built into Bridge now, which is so nice. But if you want to have them as their own standalone programs, they are available on their own. You can also use, I don't know about Snowstorm for sure, but I know you can use Blockbench in a browser, which is really nice. I actually used to do that on like my Chromebook at school. And of course, I will link both the wiki and the Bedrock dev website in the description if you want to learn more about making add-ons, and I don't have another tutorial available. Honestly, the best way to learn about add-ons and how they work and how to make your own, and this is how I learned at least, I think, aside from, of course, the wiki, is to just find an add-on that you like or something that you want to make something similar to and look through their code. Look through how they did it. If you can figure out what they did, then you can recreate it yourself. It's not too hard usually. If you followed this tutorial and made something really cool, or you make your own thing, please join my Discord, send it to me, comment down below, whatever you made. I'd love to check it out. Thanks for watching if you made it to here though. See you later and bye.